McRae. 21 in a row. Yeah, you heard right. 21 goals in a row.
Chol dances through some traffic, off to Rioli. Handball's off. Graham's got 4.
The Saints will win a classic, and their fans are about to go crazy.
Hello, I'm Damien Barrett and welcome to Access All Areas, brought to you by Virgin Australia. After 5 consecutive wins, it has been a disastrous fortnight since for Essendon. And as I welcome Jimmy Bartell and Matthew Lloyd, how do you assess this 104-point loss of the Dogs?
Well, it was that bad that we had down the road at the same time Geelong playing the Kangaroos and keeping the Kangaroos to their all-time lowest score in 150 years. That's how bad this loss was, Lloydy.
Yeah, it was horrible, Damo. I was there. I left at three-quarter time with my son, and it was amazing. You would have thought it was the end of the game. There was that many people leaving, upset with what went on. They've got 8 of their best 22 out, but it was the way they lost. Adelaide lost yesterday, Damo, but it was a brave, proud loss of your team. This one was one of the worst.
Lloydy, it seems to be a broken football club right now. The 5 wins in a row has been completely lost. 10-goal loss last week to Port Adelaide and now a 17-goal loss to the Bulldogs. Something is just not right when 21 consecutive goals are allowed through.
And it's hard to believe, though, they're sitting 7th on the ladder and you're saying it's a broken team, but they have been that the last 2 weeks. You would have thought there'd be a real tough week on the track after the Port loss. It was that bad, but to see this 21 consecutive goals, pretty hard to do. But as I said, there was no fight, no resistance, and that's a disappointing thing. I think their system's poor too, Damo. They don't lock the ball in their front half. So, you know, they've lost every first quarter.
This is a training drill, Lloydy, as you're talking.
And they haven't won a first quarter, Jim, for 5 weeks. So mentally, they're just not on.
Well, I want to discuss that with you. You mentioned system, structure comes into that. Is it decision-making? Because we saw last week on this very show the ease which Port Adelaide walked the ball into their forward line off the back of turnovers. 81 points off turnovers, Port Adelaide. This week, 106 points off turnovers. So that's clearly a structure and decision-making thing, isn't it?
In the last 3 weeks, they've conceded 15 goals where the ball's just come out of their forward line. The next worst is Port Adelaide with 6. So it just shows that they are not applying pressure whatsoever. And their wins previous to that, where they got out of jail, was fool's gold in a sense. This is the real Essendon at the moment. Probably not those sneaky wins that they got where they got out of jail the previous weeks.
You've got Fremantle in Perth this week and then Collingwood, as we've known, in the round 23 game. They have to win one. But on the exposed form of the past fortnight, they're not going to, are they?
I don't see it. Unless Fremantle, that dejected, I suppose, after, probably now after that loss and falling out of the 8, I suppose, and not probably going to make it. But, I don't see the Bombers winning a game in the next 2 weeks.
Right. Damo, you have to tip your cap, though, to the opposition every now and then. I don't think anyone would have beaten the Bulldogs on Saturday night. They were absolutely awesome. And it goes to that midfield trio. They're young, they're exciting, they're actually big and physical. Every side's looking for one big inside mid. But they've got Bontempelli, Dunkley and McRae. They're making a run for one of the best 3 combos in the game, aren't they?
So we're going to judge this on the right now factor.
Yeah.
The right now, and obviously Canelio's not part of the GWS trio there. So who would you take right now?
Well, that's the thing, right now. So Cochin's missed a lot of the season with his hamstring issues. Martin went out. And I think a number of these combinations, Lloydy, look, obviously the GWS, Green, Kelly, there's been injuries there. Ollie Wines from Port hasn't been in the side. Look, I've got them on the podium. I still love that West Coast Gaff, Shuey, Yo, the premiership midfield. I think they have a point of difference there for me. And Neil Lyons and Zorko as well.
That's right. I think on form, they're right up there in the top 2 or 3, the Dogs. And I think they'll be hard to beat in the last couple of weeks.
The finals scenario is still intriguing. 2 teams seem to be exposed, and it does go down to 13th. I mean, I know we can't possibly do the predictor and do it accurately, but who do you like from here?
The way I view it, Damo, is that Essendon go out. I don't see them beating Fremantle or Collingwood in the last 2 weeks. I think Port Adelaide stay in. I think they win their last 2 games against North Melbourne and Fremantle. So I think, to me, it comes down to the winner of Adelaide Western Bulldogs in round 23 in Ballarat.
On the Sunday.
Will take the 8th spot.
Yeah, I'm with Lloydy. Port Adelaide come up to 7th, and it's just Adelaide and Bulldogs. The percentage is a factor here with Adelaide and the Bulldogs. There's 5% difference, so that's important. So, I'm with Lloydy. That'll be a showdown there.
Lloydy, you just said before that you don't expect the Bombers to win either of its final 2 games. It'll be a losing its past 4 games going into the off-season. What does that mean for John Worsfold?
Trouble. I think it means a lot of trouble because I know he's got a contract, so it'll depend on how they lose. I think on the weekend, if they lost, but I didn't expect Essendon to win. I thought the Dogs would beat them with the side Essendon put out there, but it's the way they lost. The Port Adelaide, the way they lost. So I think it's the way they perform in the last 2 rounds. I think he can still hold his job if they're honourable losses.
Okay.
but not if they get belted or the way they played on the last 2 weeks.
So that they have the right list for you. It's all balanced, right to go. It's just they need them back in.
Well, we're going to talk about a guy called Ollie Wines shortly, who I think that's probably the missing. Dylan Shield, to me, I thought could be the missing link, but he hasn't been. He hasn't been that type of player. They need a grunt, inside, honest player, and then complement those players. That's the missing link for mine, I think.
Good game to watch yesterday at Marvel Stadium for the neutral footy observer. The Saints ground a good win out, kicked the last 2 goals of the game inside the final 2.5 minutes. Mistakes were made by Dockers players in Brad Hill, and this is the final sequence of play that ended up with the ball in Josh Bruce's hand.
Great finish under pressure by Josh Bruce, who's been pretty solid for him actually all year, presenting really well. As we look at the final play, Lloydy, I actually like Freo, what they did. Their structure was fine. It was just execution. The player coming over there, third man up, just had to kill the footy and get it out to the boundary line for me.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Duman, he came over, he needed to hit it into the third row of the stand. He obviously didn't, and his man Hine got the ball at front and centre.
Brave selections to bring back both Hanbury and Stephen. Hanbury for his 3rd game this year, Stephen just for his 5th, and yet they were probably the best 2 players on the ground. Hanbury set it up with a couple of goals in the first quarter and looked really good.
Well, they were a point of difference, weren't they? 5 goals between them in a low-scoring game, and it's just exciting. It's good to see this man, here just back playing football, 4-time best and fairest winner. You just want to see him enjoying his football, and Hanbury, after all the criticism, it was good that he had an impact coming into the side.
They're gun footballers, so I'll say, have they been professional enough? Are they disciplined enough? And are they hungry enough moving forward to get back to the footballers they can be? So I think I know they've got injury issues and but I think there's been a number of factors, Damo, which has held
on both of them. And even the conditioning which Stephen presented yesterday. I mean, he made a joke about it, I believe, post-match, and well done, because he's had a torrid year, and he still will, I believe, seek the clearance that he sought last year. Ross Lyon, look, he's had a torrid year. He's handled himself pretty well, I feel. Didn't like what he saw here when his team in the last quarter, with that 5-point lead at that stage, was given a free kick, but the advantage rule wasn't allowed to be applied.
So Lenny Gluftus, has paid an over-the-shoulder free kick to the Fremantle player, but the other umpire has paid a holding the ball decision. So 2 umpires have put, your man Rossi there wants to rip the table off there and throw it over. So Ross thought they had advantage. They were away. They were up at that point. The ball had to come back, lost a little bit of momentum there, so I can understand his frustration. Yeah,
I'd like to see a change at Marvel Stadium. Don't bolt those tables in. We want to see more coaches flipping them up, but you can understand his frustration.
West Coast did what it had to do in Perth against the Crows, and yet, strange enough, it was one of the Crows' I feel better performances, and certainly in the back half of the year. We saw, I suppose, a reason and a need to think they actually could do some damage if they managed to get through to the finals.
Well, this is the type of footy we've spoken about whenever the Crows have lost or they've struggled with slow, cross half-back, lots of possessions. But the other night, they played with speed. There was actually speed in the contest. They took the game forward. They possessed the footy, though, Lloydy, but they did it quickly and actually gave their forward line a chance.
Yeah. They didn't like what Tom Lynch did in this incident, wrestling with Jackson Nelson. Ball coming into the forward line late in the piece. There's still a chance, and Crouch ends up kicking a very nice goal. But what are these two doing?
Obviously, Nelson probably did the right thing. He's trying to hold him down in the end, Tom Lynch there, trying to not let him get up as a forward. But Eagles did what they had to do. They're a great side, the West Coast Eagles, but I thought Don Pike planned for this game beautifully. He didn't allow for McGovern and Barras to lay off, and Fogarty hit up at the ball, who we're about to talk about now. So the plan was magnificent. Let's take a look at Darcy Fogarty. How he hasn't played all year is beyond me. They've played him centre-half back. This is a pure forward. This is a guy who is the best kick for goal in the game, and I know he doesn't play. He's the best. If I had to say anyone to kick for my life, it would be Darcy. Darcy Fogarty. If you want to go back and watch this game, just the purest kick I have seen in a long, long time, and he played an exceptional game of footy.
The slows on him when Adelaide was going badly, and people were asking, where is he? Why isn't he being played? They were saying he was out of form and even out of condition, yet we see him step up yesterday, kicking 5 goals in an away venue in a hostile environment.
Well, the thing is, he's probably rolled when he come into the game. Now, you've got to remember he's 19, 20 years of age. He's a big lump of a kid, so I think people get confused with that. But he was behind, obviously, if Walker is your number 1 forward, it means he would have been parked behind Jenkins, even McGovern when he was there, but also Lynch as well. So how many tools you go into a game with?
Yeah. Hawthorn played some nice snow footy on Friday night. We'll touch on that briefly soon. But Richmond has now had a good track record with just wet football. Did what it had to do yesterday against the Blues in those conditions.
Well, their style of footy actually works even better in the wet. They surge the ball forward, but it's also the way they structure up. Being at this game yesterday, their spare, which they drop off, if you go man up their spare, well, then the winger rolls back. So all they did was force Carlton to quick kick it, which then they rebounded their game off the back of that. But it forces the players around the contest to surge forward and go at it.
The science of wet weather footy, Jimmy, you were the best at it during your time in the game. Why do some clubs have so much difficulty with it?
I think it's changing your mindset. The game actually changes. It's how you actually set up around the contest. Your decision-making off the back of it alters. So players and sides who go into it and don't adjust get exposed even further. So good experienced sides like the Tigers, their structure actually naturally fits wet or dry.
Yeah. And they're tough, Damo. Jimmy was a tough footballer, did well in those games. Wayne Carey is the best key forward I've ever seen, but brutally tough, and that's what Richmond are as a team as well.
Yeah. Jimmy, you touched on North Melbourne's lowest ever score in its history. 1 goal, 8 behind, 14 in total against the Cats. We'll talk about this, but as we do, we'll look at the reason it happened, and that was the Cats' defence just simply strangling the Roos.
Yeah, on the skinny ground down there. Now, North Melbourne's not the first, and they won't be the last side to get absolutely strangled down there. Geelong's defence gets to practice every single day down there, and their ability to roll around. Now, it's been off the back of, see, young Myers here applying pressure. Tom Hawkins even running over. So you force the quick kick and you force it wide,
right,
which then the Cats are able, with their wings and their half-backs, take best position. We can see almost behind the play there. They can all come over, and you're always going into an outnumber if you don't move the ball quick enough, or you just bang it on the boot, you're playing to their hands.
Can't wait to see how Geelong go against the Brisbane Lions, a team with speed. I think that's the big issue for Geelong. Teams with speed, leg speed, trouble the Cats, and we'll see how they go this week.
Henderson obviously played on the weekend. Blitzar's played the rucking role. Is that just simply going to be the way in which they now need to go?
I don't trust Blixarves as a ruckman and Henderson and Taylor in the same defence come finals time. That concerns me on paper.
Well, I think then they'll have to rely on Henry and Stewart to be the more athletic types, where the other two will be those zone-off players and try and intercept it. But Damo, Reece Shaw, much has been spoken about the process, and as soon as you have a result like that, everyone goes, well, why did you make the decision now? Is it a bit reactionary to say that after that loss?
Personally, no. I mean, Lloydy knows my views on it. I think you've got different views, haven't you, Lloydy? I made the same comments the week they made the announcement 2 weeks ago that it was a rushed process. I reckon they would have made it off. Have a look at Reece Shaw being exposed to all scenarios, inclusive now of his 10th game of football, producing the worst scoreline in the history of that club. Let's see how he responds to that adversity without being locked into it.
Like Carlton haven't they, with David Teague?
Yeah, and like St Kilda's committed to doing as well. The unpredictable nature of that Geelong backline was something we talked about. So too the Collingwood forward line now without Mason Cox, Lloydy. The oldest fashioned footballer going around. I love him. Brody Mychek, 4 goals.
Heard Nathan Buckley talking about him. He said his marking at the moment is brilliant in terms of how competitive he's been, and also he's running. He's one of the hardest gut running forwards in the game at the moment.
Yeah, when you go watch him live and you focus in, you do the old ISO cam, whenever he's not getting used, he keeps moving until he gets into a dangerous spot. That's why you see a lot of these marks. His defender on him is still just chasing him, but that's after his second and third lead. He leads across the ground really well. He's brave overhead. He'll go for anything. So just been a great find for someone who played at Port Melbourne as a defender. He looks a natural forward.
And just quickly, can they get something going at this late stage, the Pies?
I think if they win a final, they're doing well. I haven't got them in the last 4.
Yeah. You, Jimmy?
Yeah, just injuries. It's how many they can get back and rolling at the right time.
Okay. We want to see how you and your footy family come together for the love of the game. Head to afl.com.au/footyfamily for your chance to win the ultimate Toyota AFL Grand Final experience. The prize includes 6 Toyota AFL Grand Final tickets, flights and accommodation. Port Adelaide jumped right back into the 8 after overpowering the Swans, and there was a pretty handy late inclusion that had a real impact in this game.
Yeah, Ollie Wines, the co-captain, Lloydy, who you love at the Bombers, as you mentioned earlier, but he was a late inclusion. Ken even said during the week, I don't think you're hearing me, he's not playing. But
he put him in.
Yeah, put him in. But he played almost the old Travis Boak role for most of this game, that high half forward who gets forward. And I think that's the next level for Ollie Wines, is hitting the scoreboard.
Yeah, it's a good point. And on Port Adelaide, they won their first 2 consecutive game since round 5 and 6. So they've got North at Marvel and Freo at the Adelaide Oval. So they should go into the finals with 4 wins on the trot and chock full of confidence. And they're a scary proposition come finals time with when they're at their best.
You say that, they should. Yeah. They haven't done it too often this year. Those consecutive wins in the past 2 weeks, the first time since rounds 5 and 6. Back to Friday night, GWS, Jimmy, you are the man we go to on these matters. Yep. It wasn't a good performance by your team, the Giants, against the Hawks.
No, I'm still thawing out from camera. Did you know it snowed? As everyone's focused on.
And Clarko took his top off.
Yeah, Clarko ran around with his top off. It was a brilliant week for Alistair Clarkson and the Hawthorn Footy Club. That's twice this year that the GWS, their worst losses have been against Hawthorn, but in different manners. Early in the year, they were picked apart by system.
Yep.
This time it was by grunt and effort around the contest. GWS build their game off stoppages and contested footy, but Hawthorn were dominant in that area. And the Giants didn't make adjustments in the weather. You saw Hawthorn willing to take the contest on. They only had about 50, maybe 60 marks. They had 60-plus entries, so they just got outworked in those cold and disastrous conditions.
Yeah. All right, let's now have a look at the Access Big Ask. We'll stick with the Hawks, and it's a should question, guys. It's to both of you. Should Jared Roughhead be selected for a farewell game against the Gold Coast this week?
Yes.
Yes.
And to both again, has Darcy Fogarty's performance up forward for Adelaide come at the worst time for Josh Jenkins?
I think yes, but if Josh Jenkins is still there, I think a lot of clubs will be circling Darcy.
I say no, because either way, Jenkins has to get out of Adelaide.
I think he will be out, from what we're hearing. Lloydy, which Cameron would you pick first, Charlie or Jeremy?
On form right now, Charlie, but over the journey, I'd go Jeremy Cameron. For you, Damo, we had snow on Friday night between the Giants and the Hawks. Should games in Canberra and Tasmania be scheduled during the days in winter?
Yep, absolutely no-brainer answer to that one. Yes, they should. To both, Patrick Cripps is set to play his 100th game on round 22. Is his first 100 games better than Chris Judd's?
Different.
I'll say
Answer the
no.
question.
I'll say no. Judd's, I think we've got
Still
Shaw
best
Leonard,
under.
still best.
Well, a couple of the quick stats here. They've both got two best and fairest at this stage. Two All-Australians to Juddy, one to Cripps, who Cripps will probably be All-Australian this year, and Juddy's got the Brownlow Premiership.
Okay. And to you, Jimmy only, should AFL be replaced by an extra week end of pre-season games?
No.
All right, now get game day ready before you catch public transport to the AFL. Plan your journey at ptv.vic.gov.au/get me to the game. And now to your funny moments of the weekend, boys.
Yes.
What do you got?
We hate trolls, but there's real life trolling. You don't need to get it on social media. This is the fun side of trolling. It's the Western Bulldogs cheer squad. Finally, Essendon stopped the 21 goal in a row onslaught. And look at this. Well done, boys. Congratulations. You did the score.
Gill in the white sleeves down the bottom there.
Just really rough.
I quite like that.
It was very good.
And I love a man who loves his rig. You know, you do 10 pre-seasons for a reason. That's to be proud of your body.
Yeah.
And
Says you.
occasionally you don't mind getting your jumper ripped to shreds because you can show all your hard work. And that is Hamish Hartley. Look at him. Never seen a happier man.
Hard work with the muscle attachment.
And he just wants to enjoy. Take your time getting me a new jumper out, trainers, because I'm enjoying this rig.
Yeah.
Elements of you in that, Lloydy. Thank you to you, and thank you to you, Jimmy, and thank you for joining us on Access All Areas, brought to you by Virgin Australia. Have a good week, and we'll see you next Monday. Goodbye.